a world far bigger than she knew. Kaida woke up with a start, her heart pounding. She had dreamed of home again, her cluttered Tokyo apartment, the faint hum of her favorite anime playing in the background, and the distant aroma of fresh ramen from the shop downstairs. But as her eyes adjusted to the dim light of her stone chamber, the reality of her situation came crashing back. The veil of Concord pulsed faintly on the bedside table, a constant reminder of the immense power and responsibility now weighing on her shoulders. With a groan, she rolled out of bed, threw on her boots, and prepared for another day in the chaotic mess she was now calling her life. She hadn't even made it halfway down the hall before Soren appeared, his expression unusually grim. "Kaida," he said, falling into step beside her, "there's something you need to see." Kaida raised an eyebrow. "Can it wait? I haven't even had breakfast yet." "No," Soren said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "This is urgent." Soren led Kaida deep into the heart of the fortress, to a section she hadn't even known existed. The air grew colder as they descended a spiral staircase, the walls lined with ancient carvings that pulsed faintly with magical energy. When they reached the bottom, Kaida found herself in a massive underground chamber filled with towering shelves of dusty tomes and glowing artifacts. "Wow," Kaida said, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "And here I thought my college library was intimidating." Soren didn't respond. Instead, he led her to a large circular table in the center of the room, where Darian, Leora, and Amara were already waiting. Spread across the table was a massive map, so detailed it looked almost alive. Kaida's eyes widened as she took it in. "This is the world," Soren said, gesturing to the map. Kaida frowned. "Yeah, I figured. What's your point?" "This," Soren continued, his hand sweeping across the map, "is only a fraction of it. The world you now stand in is 100 times the size of the one you came from." Kaida stared at him, her mind struggling to comprehend the scale. "Wait, what?" Darian smirked, leaning against the table. "You thought this was it? Oh, princess, you've barely scratched the surface." Leora pointed to a series of glowing dots scattered across the map. "These are other summoning sites. You're not the only champion who's been brought here." Kaida's stomach dropped. "Other champions?" Soren nodded. "Thousands of them spread across the world. Each faction has its own summoning rituals, its own prophecies. Some champions are chosen to fight for the Lightbringers, others for the Voidborn, and others still for factions we know nothing about." Kaida slumped into a nearby chair, her head spinning. "So what? I'm just one of thousands of pawns in some cosmic game?" "Not a pawn," Soren said quickly. "A key player. You're one of the few who's been granted a unique skill set, the ability to see through lies and glimpse the future. That makes you different." "Great," Kaida muttered. "I'm a rare trading card. Just what I always wanted." Amara, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Many champions have already fallen. The factions are desperate to claim as much power as they can, and the champions are their greatest weapons. If you're not careful, you'll be next." Kaida glared at her. "Wow, thanks for the pep talk." As the weight of this new information settled over Kaida, Soren cleared his throat, drawing their attention back to the map. "The reason I've brought you here is that we've intercepted intelligence about one of these champions. A Lightbringer champion has been spotted near the southern border, leading an attack on a neutral city." "What's a neutral city?" Kaida asked. "Cities that refuse to align with any faction," Soren explained. "They're rare but vital. If this champion destroys the city, it will destabilize the entire region." Kaida frowned, her fingers tapping against the table. "So what's the plan?" "We stop them," Leora said simply, her tone as sharp as her daggers. Darian grinned. "And by stop, she means show them why messing with Voidborn is a bad idea." Kaida rolled her eyes. "Of course, it's never just a friendly chat, is it?" The journey to the neutral city was long and tense, the group accompanied by a small battalion of Voidborn soldiers. The further south they traveled, the more desolate the landscape became. The skies grew darker, the ground cracked and lifeless, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. "This place gives me the creeps," Kaida muttered, her eyes scanning the horizon. Good, Leora said. It means you're paying attention. When they reached the city, it was already under siege. Flames licked at the edges of the buildings, and the streets were filled with the sounds of clashing steel and cries of panic. At the center of it all stood the Lightbringer champion, a tall, armored figure radiating golden light. That's him, Soren said, his voice tense. Champion Riven. He's one of the most dangerous Lightbringer champions in existence. Great, Kaida muttered. No pressure. The group charged into the fray, Kaida leading the way. Her battle foresight activated as she dodged a volley of arrows, her body moving instinctively through the chaos. She swung her staff, releasing a wave of dark energy that knocked several enemies off their feet. Riven turned to face her, his glowing eyes narrowing. So, you're the Voidborn's pet champion, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. I was expecting more. Kaida smirked, gripping her staff. And I was expecting less of an ego. Guess we're both disappointed. Their clash was immediate and explosive. Riven's flaming sword met Kaida's dark energy in a shower of sparks, the impact shaking the ground beneath them. He was fast, faster than any opponent Kaida had faced before, but her foresight gave her just enough of an edge to keep up. Darien and Leora flanked Riven, their attacks forcing him to divide his attention. Soren provided magical support, shielding Kaida from a barrage of projectiles as she unleashed another eclipse slash. You can't win, Riven snarled, his sword blazing as he lunged at Kaida. Kaida gritted her teeth, summoning the power of the veil. A wave of harmonized energy surged through her, stabilizing the dark magic of the orb and amplifying her attacks. She countered Riven's strike with a blast of energy that sent him sprawling. Still think I'm just a pet? She asked, her voice steady despite the exhaustion creeping in. Riven struggled to his feet, his golden aura flickering. This isn't over, Voidborn. Your kind will burn. Kaida raised her staff, preparing to finish the fight, but before she could, Riven vanished in a burst of light. As the fires in the city were extinguished and the Voidborn forces regrouped, Kaida sat on the edge of a crumbling fountain, her hands trembling from the effort of wielding the veil and the orb simultaneously. You did well, Soren said, sitting beside her. Better than I expected. Kaida laughed bitterly, high praise coming from you. Darien approached, his armor scorched but his grin intact. Not bad, princess. You almost looked like a real champion out there. Kaida glared at him. Keep talking, Horns, and I'll show you just how real I can get. As the group prepared to return to the fortress, Kaida couldn't shake the feeling that Riven's parting words were more than just a threat. The war was escalating, and she was caught in the middle of something far bigger than she'd ever imagined.